Today, I want to talk about Jesus.
Yes?
Hello, we were wondering if we could talk to you about Jesus.
No, I don't want to talk about Jesus. I want to talk about DnD, but maybe a little bit.
Jesus.
Great, come in!
What?
I'd love to hear about Jesus. What's he up to now? Come on in!
I want to specifically focus on biblical themes in D&D and for D&D. Maybe some biblical settings, uses that would have, some inspirations, some things I've used in places, monsters, angels, demons, and spells, powers, relics, and that sort of thing.
Are you sure?
Yes, in, come in! It's a trick!
It's just, generally, people don't say yes.
Well, I'm not people! Come on in, let's talk beliefs!
I've been looking around, and I can't see many other people making videos about actual biblical themes. At least not very objective ones. I've seen a few evangelist-like videos. No, those are fine. It's just a bit jarring sometimes. They're blasting evangelist music at you and stuff. But you do you, man. There's a few biblical settings based around Abrahamic religion, pieces of published work that I might talk about some of them, but I'm not going to be focusing on that. I'm going to be focusing more on the mythology and Abrahamic religion as a whole, and its uses for D&D. Yeah, let's get into it.
Come in. Grab a pew. Right, let's go.
The Word, and the Word was God. Yahweh and Allah and all that is fine too, but for the purpose of this video, I'll just be using God. He started with that creation myth, and it's a valid creation myth. You can use that for any setting really. Lots of creation myths are based around the same idea. This entity creating the world, parts of it over time. In the Bible, Christian Bible, it's 7 days, so it's light on day 1. It was created from void or nothingness, or the creation of light that reveals the dark, sort of, and a separation of them, which is an interesting core thing that is prevalent through Dungeons and Dragons as well, with darkness and light spells, for example. Then you have the second day, where he created the sky and separated the waters and the air, the creation of air, planes of air might be part of that. Third day, he created the earth, sea, and the vegetation. Also prevalent through D&D, the themes of air, earth, and then life as vegetation. Ocean as well. Is it planescape? Where the elemental planes are, like air, fire, water, and earth. It's in the Great Wheel cosmology, isn't it? Yeah, Great Wheel. Then the day after, creation of the sun and the moon, the greater light during the day and the lower light during the night. I find that cool, like a correlation between light magic and darkness magic, that as long as you have the stronger level spell cast, it always beats the other. I think that harkens back to that. And then the animals of the ocean, and the animals of the air, and the animals of the land, and humanoids would be the next day on the 6th. The 7th is the sacred rest. Useful in any setting. You could use this concept of creation for anything, really. It's like a core creation of a world that many mythologies and settings actually draw upon. It's interesting. I'll look at some Babylonian myth. It was because a lot of those deities are mentioned in the Bible as well. And of course, I'll be focusing mostly on Abrahamic religions, and not exclusively the Bible. That's not my goal here. The goal is to talk about D&D, not religion. There's another cool concept that's prevalent, at least in the early days of D&D, the creation of order from chaos, the law and chaos, like Moorcock's concept in his books, the Elric books. The constant battle between law and order, and chaos and destruction, and entropy. There's also a cool theme of something like the Garden of Eden as an origin for humanoids. Like, there used to be a paradise, but because of an original sin, now they all have to suffer. Now the world's just gone bad. I like that idea as a use for a D&D setting. And I think the Divinity uses that. Some books use that, like is it Joe Abercrombie's first law world that has cannibalism? That is the sin, the great sin in that world. That is also the spawning point of magic. So that's a cool concept. It could be something simple as eating an apple from the wrong tree. Not that it's theologically simple, but it's a tiny act compared to eating someone. And that the concept of that committing original sin, that it could have ripple effects down the timeline in your setting and campaign, would be cool to play with. Like something happened in whatever Garden of Eden you set up. In the original text, it's a serpent, right? He creates a temptation for Eve. So you could have a mix of that, make it someone else and something else. Say it's a crab that tempts the first man instead into eating of his flesh, and now seafood is forever corrupter of humanity, and you get this Lovecraftian effect. So you have corrupt marine life constantly being a plague on humanoids in your setting. I think ideas like that are cool to play around with when you use the ideas from old biblical texts, and the consequences of them, that they can be used to shape your current timeline or current time in your campaign. There's something like events, like the Great Flood, like having that as a part of your world's history. Like, at one point, the whole world was wiped, and it was a clean slate. I used the Blood War from D&D. It's kind of a great flood in my campaign, where 1,000 years ago, the Blood War had erupted into the realm that we were playing on, that I used for my setting. Humanoids was on the brink of extinction, so they had to all band together, create these impressive magic items to try to force back the tide of the Blood War and make the realm safe again, which they succeeded in with aid of certain gods, certain outsiders, and lots of cooperation. Extremely powerful magic items that I used. And I used that as a ripple effect 1,000 years forward, where my game was set. So I had that as a kind of backdrop, and that has the same vibes as a Great Flood. It's a kind of extinction event, sort of far in the past. It'd be useful for sci-fi settings as well, of course. Or something like Dying Earth, where so far in the future that 1,000 calamities like the Great Flood has happened. And now you are a kind of melting pot of science and magic. And you talk about Abraham's line. There's a lot of tribalism and themes around that. And I think there's lots of inspiration to take there as well, with certain cities with their own religion having religious wars against each other, because that's packed through through that part of the Bible, as you would expect. Well made. The the stories about it. I was interested when I read that. You could find some pretty good videos online as well that talk about those conflicts. There's also themes that are kind of controversial these days in especially Dungeons and Dragons, but used to be very prevalent in older Dungeons and Dragons. The slaves and kings themes prevalent in Exodus with Moses and his battle against the Pharaoh. Let my people go.
Let my people go.
I think that's a cool concept for a D&D campaign. Either everybody is a part of the slave caste, or some is a part of nobility and the Pharaoh's caste, or whatever you want to use. And you're in this conflict to try and create an Exodus, so you could use an Exodus campaign. I think that would be interesting playing as well. You could also, of course, base your entire campaign on the Bible, and there is a biblical campaign setting out there. I've seen it, which is interesting. Yeah, and it could be cool. Could be fun. Though I'll be skeptical. My players would not behave, not in any setting, especially not in biblical times. They'd probably join the pharaohs.
The slaves are mine. Their lives are mine. All that they own is mine.
You could also make, after an Exodus, a group of like pilgrims. First book of the Bible is about pilgrimages, and a whole people kind of becoming pilgrims after the Exodus until they settle. And that could be cool as well. Just a whole campaign that's all on Exodus, traveling. Like everybody's pilgrims, and you gotta do things to survive or overcome hurdles that you meet on a pilgrimage. Constantly moving, so it's maybe staying in one place for a little time, but then corruption starts to set in if you stay too long, like the golden calf. And if you stay too long in one place, you have to deal with the corrupting influences and stuff. I think that's cool as well. Cool concept to play around with. There's other ideas, of course, you can take from the Bible, lots of them. The concept of a Messiah, of course. Gonna have that happen. One purely good being erupting in your world, and maybe that world is very corrupt. And then maybe you are his disciples. You have to aid this good being in trying to create a better world. Because you have the concept of heaven and hell, the lake of fire, and these are prevalent ideas through D&D. You have Mount, what's it called? Not Mount Olympus, that's Greek mythology, but Mount Celestia, that's the one, the heavenly mountain. And then you have the 9 layers of hell, of course, 9 layers of Bator, and the lake of fire and all that. And I created my own plane, sort of Lake of Fire, based it on Dante's in Inferno. And I kind of made a level for each chapter in that book, as long as it's relevant and can be used in a D&D game. I also did Purgatorio from that book, and made Mount Purgatory as a kind of challenge dungeon. It worked very well. Every time I have played in that part and someone's gone to that Inferno, it's been very good. It's been very fun. And we had a bit of a dive during my campaign as well, for a short visit, looking for someone. It was very fun. And I recommend making your own heaven and hell for your setting, if you're making a setting. If you're gonna homebrew, make those layers the sort of same that the Bible sets up. The Bible sets up the earth, and it's the sky, then it's the firmament, the heavenly barrier, sort of, and I use that too. Like a barrier that keeps any divinity out and every soul in. I use it like that. So the reason gods can't directly interfere with you is because of that barrier. But I also made it go a bit below the earth as well, not only into the heavens. So it was keeping Turog trapped under the earth. And I like the idea of the firmament, and I used that as a core concept. I called my campaign the Seven Seals, based also on the Seven Seals of the Bible, where as soon as the 4 horsemen were defeated, and then the 3 beasts, they effectively fulfilled the prophecy to make a hole in the celestial barrier that made the summoning of full deities into the world was actually suddenly possible, which created the conflict with the King in Yellow and stuff like that. For my concept I had after building, I built out Hell, built out Heaven, I built out sort of Purgatory, Mount Purgatory, and at the top of Mount Purgatory I placed the Garden of Eden. Paradise. I think it's Paradiso in Dante's Inferno. A new Garden of Eden, use that as paradise, so a place of utter peace, where you can just stay forever. You don't get hungry, you don't get hurt, you don't get sick. It's peaceful, nice, always tempered, never cold, never warm, quick to make. What is difficult is deciding what to place there, make it an interesting place. Because the original Garden of Eden sounds really nice, but for a D&D concept it's not really useful. At least if you want to use some combat, there's nothing to fight. Maybe the serpent, but the whole concept of the serpent is that it's charismatic and a tempter. So, yeah. But my players would fight it, definitely. Definitely. Then you have the concept of soul, which is a prominent concept with D&D as well. Also a crossover with biblical lore. What happens when you die? Do you go there to heaven? Do you go down hell? Do you go somewhere else? Do you exist in limbo? These are all ideas that belong to the same thing. It also emanates through parts of the Bible. I don't think we need to talk too much about the soul. It's kind of in every part of mythology. There are some more useful places mentioned in the Bible, like Sodom and Gomorrah.
Sodom and Gomorrah rot and reek of sin. Now is the time for the fire of cleansing.
Lord, he is in Sodom, and fire cannot make choices. Lord, will you destroy a city that contains 50 who love you?
No. For 50 I would spare the city.
Lord, forgive me, and for 10?
Yes, even for 10 good people, I would spare the rest.
Having 2 cities that are utterly corrupt and having a campaign set there, I think would be cool, especially if you know that Doom is coming. Maybe your players are the only ones who know Doom is coming to those 2 cities. Do you try to warn the people there? Do you just try to take your people and run? And then risk them looking back and becoming pillars of salt?
Don't look back!
What do you do in that setting? It could be very cool. And maybe a bit dark. If you want to run something grimdark, you could use Sodom and Gomorrah as a sort of grimdark setting that it's gonna end in destruction no matter what you do. And I like the concept of someone just turning to a pillar of salt. It's grim. Something like Canaan and Babylon as well. Having that as kind of... and I wouldn't necessarily call them evil religions, but opposed religions to the overgod, whatever that is in your setting. Or if you use the official things like Ao, it's the overgod. You could have the Babylonian gods or the Canaanite gods as sort of devils and demons, and I think they often are. I think Baal is a Canaanite deity that is Baalzebul in... he is an official D&D 9 Hells entity, the Lord of Flies. And then you have things like Babylonian deities that go back to Marduk and creatures like that. And also Dagon is mentioned. I think that's where Lovecraft took him from Babylonian and Mesopotamia and stuff like that. And you could definitely use, especially I like the religion part of that, because it's actually in D&D. Dagon is on the Abyss, I think, in the official. Don't know what book that is mentioned in. He's layering down in the Abyss deep next to the Demogorgon. That's a common crossover and prevalent idea for both the D&D and through the Bible. Talking about Babylon, I like Babel. The Tower of Babel. It's basically a classic mega dungeon. A massive tower, layer after layer. You can make each layer its own thing, like the book series Senlin Ascends, where each layer sort of has its own city or culture. To get into a layer, maybe it's, I think the first one is just a big party place where people sit in carousels and drink beer. That's all they do. But it's very criminal and stuff like that, and it's very shady. You get to the next layer. The whole layer is just kind of an actor's dream, where you get assigned roles and you play your part in a sort of Big Brother-esque house, where you're just gonna play a part there. With some real shady characters as well, behind the scenes, steering the whole thing. Then you get to the next layer and it's just a massive bathhouse. It's just steam everywhere and quite nice, actually. But you have certain characters running the whole thing, and then airships flying up and down the tower and all that kind of thing. So I recommend Senlin Ascends. That's a good book. Tower of Babel as a mega dungeon. I bet it's out there somewhere. But someone's already made it. If they haven't made the Tower of Babel as a mega dungeon, they have made a giant tower as a mega dungeon. Monsters, mythological creatures in the Bible. There's lots of them. You have the classics like giants. Giants are in the early stories. Nephilim, the children of angels, half angels, or that become giants as well in evil. There is mention of a dragon. I think it's Lucifer that turns into a dragon by the end. There is a dragon in the Bible. Then the humanoid. Before I get into more beasts, I'll talk about some humanoid themes, like the slavers, kings, warlords. There's lots of characters like that. That's extensive to talk about. That can be used as an inspiration. My name is David, and I'm named after King David, which I always thought was like David with the sling and taking it down Goliath and just a hero, until I started reading the story about King David. Turns out King David didn't listen to the 10 Commandments. He did covet someone else's wife. Enough to send that guy to war to die, just so he could be with his wife. Such an asshole. Cool concept, right? As either an adversary, like a villain, or just a dubious leader in your town, to have the king actually send someone to war because he covets their wife. Could be useful for a D&D story. Like, you gotta help that guy try to deal with David, but everybody loves David because he's seen as a benevolent ruler. that'd be a difficult task for a D&D party to deal with. There's also a lot of charlatans and thieves, some of them seeking redemption. They're peppered throughout the Bible, lots of them. Jesus meets a lot of thieves during his travels. Then you have a prevalent mention of things like sorcerers, fortune tellers, diviners, and necromancers. They are everywhere in the Bible as well, often playing the role of villain, which they do very well in D&D as well. And you can find a few very interesting ones, like what are the two sorcerers that, or fortune tellers, that flank the Pharaoh during Exodus, that have their own spells and stuff and try to compete with the power that Moses brings in. Those are like classic adversaries. That's useful inspiration. And then the monsters. I used 3 beasts in my campaign. So I used a beast of the sea, Leviathan. I used the beast of the earth. For the earth, it's Behemoth, right? And then beast of the abyss, which I used Nyarlathotep, the Lovecraftian creature, as that beast. Trickster beast with 1,000 shapes that arose from the abyss. So for Leviathan, I did Dagon, because he's sort of god of fish in Babylonian lore, and Lovecraft makes him into a fish deity. I just used him as the Leviathan, the biblical theme true and true, and it was very effective, very cool. Behemoth, I used this sort of massive demonic beast. I don't remember, I read about Behemoth a lot. I did a lot of research on Behemoth when I was making the campaign, but I don't remember much of that research now, because it's several years ago. It's a cool creature. I always think back to Heroes of Might and Magic 3. The Orc Fortress, they have the behemoths with the 2 claws and the bear belt and stuff. I really like those. Those are cool. I want to make miniatures and use those as enemies in my campaigns. Very cool. You have other creatures as well, like mentioned in the Bible, like Jonah's great fish, which is in all probability a whale, but it could be just a giant fish. And giant creatures are prevalent to D&D through the whole thing. I don't know if there's an adventure that features just a giant fish. That is a cool concept to deal with. You could also, speaking of mega dungeons, use what's the name in Legend of Zelda, Lord Yabu Yabu. You could create a dungeon from a fish. Zelda did it. Ocarina of Time did create a dungeon from a fish being eaten by the fish, which is a common mythological trope. Other monsters, yeah, there's lots of them. I think there's unicorns and satyrs at some point mentioned, at least. Maybe just like a reference, not that they're actually appearing in the Bible. Yeah, the golem from Jewish myth. Don't know if he's in the Jewish text, but it's a cool creature, which is a trope from D&D. And I like the original concept of a clay golem with those Jewish Hebraic symbols. And if you mess with those symbols, it goes berserk. It doesn't function as it should. It creates disaster. I like that as well. Just one rampaging golem. If you wanna make it simple and make it biblical, maybe use a biblical setting. I use a clay golem if they encounter a golem. That'd be cool. Angels and demons. They are everywhere. In D&D and in the Bible as well. Some are named, of course, some are not named. There's a lot of them. I'm not gonna be mentioning those. Maybe I'll talk about that at a later point. Make a separate video about angels and how I've used them, because I've used a few. I know I made Michael a part of my world. And of course I made the angel from Dante's Inferno that guards Mount Purgatory, Guardian Angel. Which is a cool thing, a Guardian Angel. That's a cool creature. And of course you can use biblically accurate angels if you want to go the Lovecraftian route. Just a floating eye with spheres of golden bands with eyes on them and wings popping out. That could also be a cool creature to use. And if it's a horror team campaign, it works there too. Even though it might be benevolent. So certain creepypastas that deal with that. and using them as sort of patrons, because you don't need God to be the only patron. If you're having things like cleric and warlocks in your campaign, you could have angels be the patron. Like you could have devils and demons be patrons for evil characters. I would also do the original two, like Adam and Eve, the original humanoids. No matter what, if you use Adam and Eve or you use another concept like that, I'd have them like Eternals, Immortals, that could also be used as patrons, worshipped, or maybe they're fallen as well. Maybe they're blamed for the original sin and everybody hates them.
I cannot argue with God.
Unless you taste the fruit.
Why do I feel the world pulling against me? The air is thick.
Perfection.
Cool stuff you could do with that concept as well. And of course the serpent, the original tempter, creature of temptation, like a patron for succubuses or temptresses or seducers.
Eve. Eve, my child.
You are the serpent.
And you are the loveliest thing in a perfect garden. If only you knew it.
I do know it now. You have told me.
Will you pick some fruit for us?
Here.
Not peaches today.
What then?
Something rare and delicate. There, in the middle.
No, not that.
No.
If you were playing a bard in this setting, which would be a strange thing to use the serpent from the garden as your patron. And then you have archangels like Michael. You are a kind of a warrior angel. You have Metatron, and it's the angel of knowledge, I think. Gabriel, the messenger angel. There are lots of others. There's so many. I also use fallen angels and devils, like Lucifer. Is the main one, of course. Have that as kind of a tragic villain, maybe. Also potential patrons. And fallen angels I have used. I used the four horsemen of the apocalypse as fallen angels. Kind of closer to neutral than pure evil. But also forces of evil. War, pestilence, famine, and death. So I placed mine in Purgatory. 4 realms for them below Mount Purgatory. 1 for each shifting realms. I used angel stats for those. They're fun to run. It's cool creatures to use. Of course you have demons. Demons prevalate biblical and Abrahamic lore. They're everywhere. There's thousands. Lots of them are named. Some of them are based on Babylonian and Canaanite religion. They've shifted over to demons in those settings. As they are in D&D as well. They often appear as devils or demons. Lilith, for example, is like the winged serpent of Babylon. Then the use of powers and miracles and spells, stuff like that. There's a lot of overlap. You have, of course, the themes of sanctity, sin, temptation, redemption, and faith prevalent to so many spells and stories. It kind of blends with D&D automatically. That's every paladin and every good cleric and ranger have touched on those themes, I think, at some point. Then you have things like plagues and floods, of course, with Exodus, with Moses, the locust plague. You have the spell insect plague. That's obviously based on that. the theme of Eden and fertility. There's lots of spells surrounding that could be used. No, that's not very much used in D&D, except for things like plant growth and the creation of food and water and stuff like that. Got more creation magic than actually fertility. But that's fertility is in every mythology. Almost every pantheon has a fertility god or goddess. Speaking of divinity, the concept of divine punishment, as I talked about earlier with Sodom and Gomorrah, the pillar of salt. I think that's a cool thing to have as part of your campaign. Is that if you do something really bad, you might suffer divine punishment. You might turn into a pillar of salt. I like that concept as well. Of extreme punishments. Might be cruel, might be more benevolent, but whatever kind of setting you wanna make. Then you have the powers of creation that I talked about with the 7 days. Light, sky, earth, sea, vegetation, sun, moon, animals, and the sacred rest. You use those specifically and switch out the elemental planes. And only use light, sky, earth, sea instead. And then have powers like vegetation be nature. And then sun and moon have its own, but you could have them as kind of elements here. And animals as its own element of life. And the sacred rest. I like the concept of sacred rest as well. You're in a city and you're gonna go shopping. You forgot that it's Sunday. So every shop is closed. And of course there's the thematic spells that coincide with everything in the Bible. Like bless, command, sanctuary, hallow, of course, smite.
He shall smite the wicked and plunge them into the fiery pit.
The god in the Bible loves to smite. And so does every paladin player out there. If you're a DM for a paladin, you know. And then you have the concept of, when it comes to spells, using creation spells. Would that be a blasphemy? Isn't that the act of God? Isn't that trying to do what God does? So could that be seen as a blasphemy? Like usurping of God's power? Could be. Could also be just channeling of God's power. What other things could be blasphemic? Could all spellcasting be seen as blasphemy? Maybe. Like you have a Spanish Inquisition situation where you have people hunting down spellcasters. I saw it on the Ring of Water Elemental command. The ability to part water, just doing that with the Staff of Moses. Have that as a core concept as well. And maybe that's a spell that's gonna rye. It's become permanent. So now you have an ocean that's permanently parted, and maybe civilizations have sprung up or dungeons have appeared in the bedrock of that sea that can now be explored with a permanently parted ocean. Which is scary though, if it's suddenly not parted anymore. We're all gone. You have relics and artifacts, which are also prominent in the Bible. I've used a few in my campaign that I've stolen directly from the Bible. You have things like the Apple of Eden. Like it could be a corrupting force, of course. It could also be like an apple of the Tree of Life that grants life. That concept is prevalent to other mythologies as well, like apples of Idun in Norse mythology, like apples of life, and youth. Of course, in the Bible, it's a sin. The whole thing, it creates sin. I was talking about the Archangel Michael. I don't know if it's official, but in newer depictions, he has this flaming sword, usually. And I think if I had Michael become an actual entity in one of my games, I'd use something like a Holy Avenger and add 2d6 fire, or something like that. So he always has this smiting sword. And just to make, if you want to make sure that the players don't get it, instant immolation if they pick it up. If someone picks up Michael's sword that's not Michael, they just get immolated. They die. Instantly burn up. If you want to be nicer with them, make them take a lot of damage. Burn their hands profusely if they touch it. I used the coat of many colors, which is a colorful coat in the early parts of the Bible, which makes whoever wears it more charming, likable. At least. I used it as set score items, like Gloves of Dexterity sets your dex to 18. Ogre Gauntlets sets your strength to 18 or 19, I think. And Circlet of Intelligence sets your intelligence to 18. I use it like that to set Charisma at 18. So items like that are very useful. And the Coat of Many Colors is cool as well. You can make it real drippy. Of course, there's the Staff of Moses, the Staff of Aaron. It's already in D&D, sort of, with the Staff of the Adder that can turn into a snake. That's a biblical concept. You could, of course, use it as the Staff of Power, so much more powerful than just the Staff of the Adder. That it can part oceans. You could use actual Staff of Aaron. It can change the course of battles. It could part waters. Make water appear from stone, stuff like that. Super powerful. You could have items like that, use very useful items for D&D campaign. And the concept of the Grail. I've used the Grail in one of my side campaigns. The goblet that was used to catch some of Jesus' blood as he hung on the cross. And now it's a holy artifact, capable of restoring life. Indiana Jones. Grail. I use it sort of like that, and I use it to grant eternal youth. Made you kind of enlarged and bigger, stronger. Made you young again, and healed all your wounds. Sort of restoration artifact that a lot of the Knights of the Round Table had gotten hold of in one of my side campaigns. Then you have something big like the Ark of the Covenant. You could use that. This box with holy words that are so powerful and important in it that it's capable of unleashing great destruction on things that are evil. So as long as you move this box close to something that a deity or something like that wants to destroy, the box will ensure that place's destruction. But of course it comes with its own perils as well, and that's a cool concept that can be used for a D&D campaign. Just careful when you open the Ark of the Covenant. Might melt your face off. I like that as a potential kind of story hook. You are tasked with transporting the Ark of the Covenant to an evil city. And you have to get it there by a certain time, or the army that's camped there gets destroyed or something like that. They need the Ark of the Covenant. And then you have a lot of other potential magic items that aren't really magic items in the setting. Could be used as that, like take a lock of Samson's hair and infuse that into an item like a necklace or a belt, and suddenly you have 18 strength or even greater strength, kind of a belt of strength, giant strength or something, if you use that lock of hair, Samson. And it could be, of course, if you set your setting in biblical times, you could have it whenever you want in the timeline, and maybe after Samson's death, his hair gets passed down like locks of power after he destroyed the temple. All of these things think make excellent starting points for any campaign. Lots of inspiration to find with the biblical themes. They're already peppered throughout DnD. They have been from the start. So I don't see why more people don't talk about it. I think it's interesting. I think it's useful for us as dungeon masters to have biblical themes in our work. Just like I use other mythology as well. I use everything I can get my hands on. It's anything that could inspire me, I will gravitate towards. That's my seventh and final point. I'll talk about take a long rest here and talk about the importance of rest. I think this video will be a beast to edit. So I'm probably gonna take a break. It's Easter. So if you want more information about biblical themes and stuff and some inspiration, you should check out Legends of History on YouTube. It's on Islamic religions now, actually. Much of his stuff is very inspiring. If you wanna make something that's biblically themed. And lots of other creators as well on YouTube that talk about biblical stories. So check it out. Now I'm gonna take my long rest. Biblical themes. That's what I wanted to talk about. If you're still watching, thank you for watching. Have a nice day. Have a nice week. Happy Easter. And see you later. Goodbye.